Just when we saw a guy bawling out under the lights and showing some serious grit, the injury bug had to bite right back. Panthers Nation knows the preseason is a wild ride of highs and lows. We had a guy fighting tooth and nail for a roster spot who put on an absolute show for the Queen City. He was literally putting his body on the line to prove he belongs in Carolina. But right after securing a sweet victory, we got a frustrating update from the training staff that changes his entire camp trajectory. Panthers fans, we need to address some sobering news regarding our quarterback room. As quarterback Haynes King, following his truly memorable performance in the Hall of Fame game on Thursday night, has sustained a hamstring injury and is now considered week to week. For those who've been following our Panthers through OTAs and training camp, King was a player consistently putting in the work, battling for a spot, and he truly burst onto the scene in our thrilling 33-30 victory over the Arizona Cardinals. He turned heads, completing 21 of 34 passes for 180 yards and 2 touchdowns, while also adding 3 carries for 39 yards and that crucial game-winning score on the ground. He even shared his pure elation after the game, saying he couldn't breathe from the excitement. This hamstring injury, as reported by The Athletic's Joe Person, is an incredibly unfortunate turn of events for King, who was undeniably gaining significant momentum and making a strong case to stick with the team, likely on the practice squad behind Bryce Young and Kenny Pickett. As Panthers fans, it's a real gut punch to see a player gain such positive traction, only to have it potentially derailed by an injury. Here's what people are missing though. With only Bryce Young and Kenny Pickett as the other quarterbacks on the roster, this injury creates an immediate void and an urgent need for the Carolina Panthers. The immediate question for us is, who will fill that spot during King's recovery? And how will this setback impact his hard-earned fight for a place on the 53-man roster or practice squad as the preseason continues? What's particularly telling, and perhaps concerning, is that our Carolina Panthers were already proactively addressing quarterback depth even before King's injury, having recently worked out former Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback Kyle Trask. This proactive move reveals that the team, under HC Dave Canales and owner David Tepper, understands the need for practice arms. The general NFL trend of teams increasingly avoiding a third active quarterback on the 53-man roster creates a precarious balance for our depth chart, especially when a third stringer like King goes down. The direct implication is that with only Bryce Young and Kenny Pickett currently healthy, the roster is critically thin for practice reps. And here's why that's a big deal. A hamstring injury, even a week-to-week one, can often linger, meaning King's quick return isn't certain. The fact the Panthers only have 2 other quarterbacks underscores this fragility, and the explicit mention that Trask could be the one Carolina brings in shows the immediacy of their contemplation for a third arm. Historically, while many teams once kept 3 QBs through camp for workload distribution, fewer now dedicate a 53-man spot to a third quarterback, influencing how Canales and Tepper manage their roster during preseason. Behind closed doors, Coach Canales and Mr. Tepper are focused on ensuring Bryce Young's development isn't hindered by a lack of practice reps. They need healthy bodies to run scout teams. Bringing in a player like Trask would be a practical decision, driven by the immediate need for a healthy arm to alleviate pressure on the top 2, allowing King to fully recover without rushing. Alright, Panthers Nation, we've covered the specifics of Haynes King's hamstring injury and the raw emotion of his performance. But now let's shift our focus to what this news truly signifies for our team moving forward. This situation creates a pressing challenge for the Carolina Panthers because it directly impacts the crucial preparatory period of training camp and preseason. For a team building continuity and refining its offense, particularly with Bryce Young at the helm, the absence of even a developmental quarterback like King means fewer available arms to execute scout team plays, run drills, or simply give the primary quarterbacks a much-needed break during demanding practice sessions. This immediate void means the remaining healthy quarterbacks, Bryce Young and Kenny Pickett, will likely shoulder an increased workload, raising concerns about potential fatigue or even injury risk for our key players during what should be a meticulous ramp-up to the season. The current roster, with only 2 active quarterbacks, is now critically exposed, necessitating an urgent move to secure a third arm to maintain the intensity and efficiency of practice. And I cannot stress this enough. a smooth, fully staffed practice environment is absolutely vital for a young team to gel. This, in turn, directly influences our preparedness for the opening slate of games. Any disruption to the optimal practice routine could subtly affect our team's sharpness in early matchups, potentially impacting our standing against division rivals like the New Orleans Saints or Tampa Bay Buccaneers. In the fiercely competitive NFC South, even marginal differences in preseason preparation can ripple through the entire schedule, affecting our overall record and ultimately our playoff chances. The strongest argument for the Panthers' current strategy, which involves immediately seeking additional quarterback depth like Kyle Trask, is purely practical. It safeguards the integrity of our preseason practices and protects our top two quarterbacks. By bringing in a capable arm, even a short-term solution, Coach Canales ensures that Bryce Young and Kenny Pickett are not overworked, minimizing their risk of injury during critical drills and allowing them to focus on their development rather than taking every single rep. This proactive approach maintains the competitive edge and efficiency of practice, which is absolutely vital for a young team aiming for success. However, the downside here is equally significant. Every new player brought into a system, even temporarily, requires time to learn the playbook and build rapport with teammates and coaches. This introduces another unknown variable into an already delicate period, potentially disrupting the flow or chemistry that our staff is working hard to establish. Furthermore, for a player like Haynes King, seeing another quarterback brought in, even for depth, could be a psychological blow, affecting his morale and perceived standing with the team while he's sidelined. NFL analysts and pundits around the league, especially those following our Carolina Panthers, are consistently pointing out the precarious balance teams face with quarterback depth in the modern NFL. The general consensus highlights that teams prioritize protecting their starting and immediate backup quarterbacks, making every practice snap a calculated decision. While our front office recently worked out former Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback Kyle Trask, who is a strong candidate, speculation will naturally turn to other available veteran quarterbacks who could step in temporarily. So, bringing together the news itself with what it means going forward, here's the comprehensive picture that emerges for our beloved Carolina Panthers. This seemingly minor injury to Haynes King, a developmental quarterback, surprisingly crystallizes the franchise's pragmatic direction for the next few seasons. It strongly emphasizes safeguarding our primary quarterbacks, Bryce Young and Kenny Pickett, and diligently maintaining optimal practice conditions to foster their growth. This is a strategic move away from relying on sentimentality for deep roster spots, instead focusing on immediate utility and ensuring every practice rep counts without risking the health of our key players. Fans should feel confident in the leadership of HC Dave Canales and owner David Tepper. This situation clearly demonstrates they are making proactive, practical decisions to navigate the inevitable bumps, refusing to let a third-string injury compromise the wider plan. This is where it gets real, Panthers Nation, as the team prioritizes the long-term health and development of its core and the efficiency of its daily operations. The immediate scramble for a practice squad quarterback, potentially Kyle Trask, underscores the rigorous demands of an NFL season and the critical importance of having ready bodies to